Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com, where if you use that promo code BOXES, you'll get a free entry to your first draft. I am your host, Mike Catron. Join me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Oh, Michael, let's just get to it.
Let's get right to it. We are almost done with our 30 teams in over 30 days series, which means right after that, we will be getting to preseason NBA basketball. We'll be talking about auction drafts and head-to-head versus roto. We're going to have who do you drafts with all the top players, building punt strategies out of the top players. We got all that coming up for you. And if you want some exclusive content, go check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Subscribers to our Patreon will get exclusive content. There's already a bunch of exclusive content up there right now. We got ranked tiers. We have a couple exclusive podcasts for some industry drafts that we've done, including a auction draft. So go check that out, patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. Tyler, what is the narrative going in this fantasy season all the way down, taking my talents down to Miami Beach for the Miami Heat?
Is there a narrative? I think this team
that might be the right answer, Tyler.
Maybe more than any other team completely ran it back, right? Do they have a new player?
No, usually, I mean, not always, but so I'll usually list the ins and outs of the team, and I don't think there's anything of even remote significance for the Miami Heat here at all.
Right, so like we could talk about interesting storyline, but in a lot of ways, this is the exact same team we saw 365 days ago. The exact same one.
Yeah, in none, out none.
Well, and we might talk about a couple things that may change the game a little bit for them this season, but I still think that's going to have a minimal effect.
Well, I think sadly the new thread here that just happened was the re-signing of Dwayne Wade, and I feel like that threw a big wrench into the fact that, you know, even though Dwayne Wade is kind of at the end of his ropes here for a career, right? He still played about 30 minutes in Miami, and that was 30 minutes that were going to go to someone else, like your Tyler Johnsons.
Well, I mean, so we saw a small sample last year, but he only played 22 minutes a game.
Is that true?
Yeah, so he played 21 games for the Heat last year, 22 minutes a game, scored 12 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal, 0.7 blocks. Here's the crazy part, right? He shot only 40.9%, which is bad, and he didn't shoot a good free throw percentage, and he hasn't shot a good free throw percentage.
Well, see, I don't care about Dwayne Wade. So you're right. Sorry, it was 23 minutes a game, not 30. Don't know where I got that stat.
But in a deep league, like, that's a good stat line in 22 minutes.
All right, yeah, it certainly is. Almost a steal, almost a block. Cool. What I'm pissed off, though, is that I think that addition of Dwayne Wade, a legacy player for the Miami Heat, takes 23 minutes away from every other guard that they have on the team, of which they have Josh Richardson, Tyler Johnson, Wayne Ellington. I think Deion Waiters is still hanging around somewhere in there.
So Waiters is going to miss the beginning of training camp.
Yeah,
we just got that news. So, and Waiters had that surgery last year, so there's some question of, is he going to play a whole ton? And we don't know the answer to that yet. Is Tyler Johnson a good basketball player? That's my question, right? Like, he got that big contract, but is he good?
No.
Like, should he be playing?
No, he's not good. He's not a good basketball player. No one on this team is actually, I think, a good basketball player. Maybe you could throw a shout out to Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk. They're solid basketball players, but no one on this, like, you know, Justice Winslow hasn't proved anything. I guess Bam Adebayo looks like he could be something interesting in a basketball sense. Josh Richardson, I'll throw him a bone. He looks like he should play starters minutes. So you got him there who's got playing time kind of written all over him. But everybody else on this team feels like they're going to be playing less than 30 minutes. And why would I be interested in hardly any of these guys? I guess maybe healthier James Johnson becomes interesting, but like I'm just not fantasy-wise. I'm really not interested at hardly any of these players. Maybe Josh Richardson. That's about it.
Well, and here's the crazy part about Josh Richardson, right? Like, we can say a lot of good things about Josh Richardson. He averaged a steal and a half per game last year. He averaged almost a block. But even still, like, what is he, like a top 65 player maybe, right? Like a 70th ranked player? Like, that's probably about as good as it gets on this Heat team. We can quibble about Hassan Whiteside a little bit, just are the blocks, even though they're down, still propping him up enough to make him slightly ranked ahead of Josh Richardson. But like,
so yeah, obviously Hassan Whiteside's on the team. Obviously, if you're in a punt strategy, it makes a little bit of sense to draft him at a certain point. But even Hassan Whiteside has questions. Like,
well, and here's the other thing, like, as opposed to some of those other bigs, like Hassan Whiteside shot 70% from the free throw line last year, which granted that's not good, but he's also not taking the massive amount of attempts that some of the other guys are taking, and he's shooting a little better than guys like DeAndre Jordan and Andre Drummond. And
yeah, that is true. I mean, it is a bit of an outlier, that 70%. He's probably a mid-60s type of shooter, so we could see that revert.
The thing that helped him, though, I would say even more than that, was he played less minutes, which means the attempts went down. And right, the attempts are really what's killer, because if you shoot terrible free throws on next to no attempts, which 3.5 attempts a game is still a healthy amount, I understand that, then you can maybe cover it. So if we think he's only going to play 25 minutes a game, like, I would say his free throws are in the range where I might be able to not finish last, right? I could beat 2 or 3 teams if they have those big name centers who are obviously going to shoot significantly worse.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not a big fan of Hassan Whiteside by any means. I can't wrap my head around it. As a roto player, it does make sense that I wouldn't be. But even as a head-to-head player, he's one of the last quote-unquote punt free throw guys going in drafts, and probably one of the last punt free throw guys you're going to want to take. Though if you punt free throws, Hassan Whiteside is, probably top 30, top 40 player. He is currently being drafted in Yahoo leagues at 73. So, take that with a grain of salt, because not everybody's thinking about punting free throws when they're building their team. So you probably can get a fairly decent value on Hassan Whiteside. But to me, he's still one of the last punt free throw guys to go, simply because there's a big question mark on whether or not he's going to be basically a competent basketball player and stay on the floor all the time.
Well, and people like to forget that, right? He had like 2 years where he didn't play in the NBA at all.
I certainly didn't forget that. And
so obviously there's some question marks around him. And he's a player maybe more than any other player that I don't know that anyone can say for certain what we get out of Hassan Whiteside, right? He played 25 minutes a game last year, but the year before that he played 32 and 29 and then 23, right? Like, we could see him kind of all over the map in a lot of different areas. But I think what we do know is if Hassan Whiteside plays even 22 minutes, he's going to get you like 10 rebounds and he's going to get you over a block. So,
and those are super rare stats.
Right. So he's going to be worth it in a head-to-head league, like you mentioned. Like, regardless, he's worth a pick at some point. And if he's going in the 70s, there could be a little bit of value there.
Yeah, and even in a roto league, I don't think he should really go completely undrafted. But you're still putting yourself in a very big deficit. There's a point in the draft where an asset's an asset, and 11 rebounds and 2 blocks is a nice asset if that's what you think he is going to average. So I would be taking Hassan Whiteside much past 73, probably in the hundreds if I'm in a roto league. But if I'm in a head-to-head league and I'm punting free throws, I'm gonna probably wait on him and see if he falls. If I'm putting free throws, though, I'm already setting myself up early in the draft with either Drummond or I guess Giannis or anybody like that who would be a nice punt free throw type of strategy guy. And then if I could throw, if I need another big, I'll throw a bone at Hassan Whiteside in the 40-50 range if he's available, because that, without that free throw, he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
But really, other than Hassan Whiteside, we're talking about Josh Richardson here. Like you were saying earlier.
So here's my question.
81 games last year, 33 minutes. Is that repeatable? Like,
is there a step forward for Josh Richardson? Because if not, he's like a 60 to 75 ranked player, right? Like the stat line he produced last year is like a 60 to 75 ranked player.
So what he does well is he gets last year anyway, was he averaged about 1.5 steals and almost a block a game. Both what I would guess are career highs. Looking at his life. Yep.
Looking at his life?
Looking at his entire life, those are career highs.
But it's also because he played 33 minutes for the first time ever.
True. We talk about this a lot. It's pretty and if you go listen to the last episode with Kyle McEwen, a very, very good episode, we talk about that big bucket. That 40 to like 70 range of players who are all actually pretty close to one another in ranking, give or take a rebound here or assist there, and just a small upswing can rise you from 70 to 40, but it's going to take a big improvement to go from 40 to 30. And I'm not sure Josh Richardson's game is someone who could finish in that next tier. I think he's still one of those big bucket guys. Now, a good season from him means he's going to finish at the top, maybe, of that big bucket in in the 50 range, perhaps.
I don't even know that I see that though, because like, if you're saying where does Josh Richardson get better?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think he can get better.
Like, I don't think so, right? He might get it up to like 13.2 points a game instead of 12.9. Like, there's just nowhere where I really see. And if anything, I think the steals go down a little bit. So, I don't know. I think we saw the best Josh Richardson, like the good Josh Richardson last year. He played 81 games, looked real good. To me, that's like even at the bottom of the bucket, right? Like, it's okay. It's fine. It's in the bucket, but it's not one of the top players in that bucket. Like, I don't see a ton of upside here. I just think he is what he is.
I mean, he is 25. He's got finally got a full season of starting under him, and he's probably like we were saying, one of the best player on this team. So like, if he's gonna have an opportunity to prove himself, he's gonna have an opportunity to play. So I'm not like against drafting him. I'm not saying his I'm going to go out there and say his draft stock should go down by any means. He's currently going 63 in Yahoo leagues, and that feels about right.
Right, that's what I mean. Like, I think he's just fine, but I don't know that I'm picking this guy going, oh, he's definitely going to be a top 50 player. Like, I think he's just the 60th ranked player, and sure, I got maybe a couple spots value. He is ranked 78th on ESPN, so there's a little bit of a buying opportunity there.
Just a little bit.
But I just don't think there's great value in picking him. Like, he's fine. He is what he is.
Let me throw a few names at you. Josh Richardson or Joe Ingles?
Ooh, Joe Ingles.
Josh Richardson or Robert Covington?
Bob Cove.
Josh Richardson or Taurean Prince?
Prince.
Wow. Josh Richardson or Hollis Jefferson?
Josh Richardson.
One more. Josh Richardson or Harrison Barnes?
Josh Richardson, I think.
Okay, that seems right. I mean,
but
like, if I need
points, right, it might be Barnes. But other than that, I think I'm definitely going to go for Josh Richardson.
Yeah, he's a kind of across the board player. So people are going to look at his stats. They're going to look at his rankings, and we keep talking about this. Rankings are pretty pointless. It's more about the value that person brings. And if you're ranked like he was per game last year at 53, and then in totals he was ranked 32nd because he played 81 games, excuse me, you're going to go, man, that guy's really, really, really good. But it's simply because he doesn't do anything poorly. He's pretty average or a little bit good at everything. And the things that he's kind of like above average on are those things that are like super rare, like the steals and the blocks. So like you can be like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 up and get like a good boost in your ranking. But if that 0.3 drops out from under you, he goes from the 53rd best player to like the 73rd best player.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing too, right? So his per minute steal rate went up a good amount last season. We don't see that a lot. And normally it normalizes to what you've been for the rest of your career. So we could see a steal go down a little bit. And he also shot a free throw percentage that was much higher than he had shot before. So we could see that go down a little bit too. So you said he was the 53rd best player. And that's kind of why I'm saying, like, I don't really see him being a top 50 player, because he was 53rd last season. And if anything, I think the numbers go down a little bit, not up.
Yeah, I mean,
there's not a lot of mouths to feed. Like, he could see another minute or two less. Like, you can say he's their best player, but like, what's really the huge difference between him and Dion Waiters or him and a legacy player like Dwayne Wade? I mean, they have a million guys to fit in these spots.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he gets an extra minute, maybe he gets a few extra minutes less. Like, if that's the case, what do you care? Like, if he finished 53rd per game next year, I'd go, okay, yeah, that sounds right. Like, if he finished 25th 80th per game, I would burn my house down.
But if you finished 80th, you would kind of be like, yeah,
okay, yeah, that like, makes sense.
You know what I mean? Like, anywhere from that 50 to 80 range, I could say, okay. I just don't really see him being in the top 50. Like, I've heard some love for him this preseason.
I've seen some reaches in the 50 range for him.
And that's just not for me. Like, for me, I'm looking at him more like in the 60 range. And then after that, sure, I think he's fine. I think he's a good value.
I've been quite surprised with that. People reaching for Josh Richardson. It's not something I'm in favor of. Let's talk about Goran Dragic.
Are we all sleeping on the Dragon?
See, well, people on Yahoo aren't, because he's being drafted 62nd.
Yeah, right? And then on ESPN, he's 76, which I'm pretty all right with that. I don't love it, but I'm all right with it. If he can get back up to a steal a game, keep the 16 or 17 points, give you like 4.6, 4.7, 4.8 assists, 4 rebounds. Like,
if he's not over 5 assists, like, come on. He's on the decline. And
he's definitely on the decline. I don't think you're going to get an argument from me out of that.
He's on the decline on a team that has no identity and no playing style, and a bunch of dudes that are, for some reason, getting paid a lot of money to be mediocre. I mean, I don't know if Dragic has a comeback season in him. You know what I mean?
Okay, where does Mike take Dragic? This is a good question for all.
Oh boy, it is a good question for all. Probably in the 8th round. I'm down on him. I just like I want to have my point guards locked up by then, and if I don't, I guess I could take him in the 7th round, because he's still a guy who can score and he gets you some assists. But like, what's there to like here other than the allure of 5 assists?
Oh, not a ton. Long-time listeners will know, right, that like I'm big on the point guard section right above him. Right, like he's kind of in the tier right below a lot of the guys that I really like to draft and really like to own. So, I mean, I can safely say in the last 3 or 4 years, like I have never owned Dragic a whole ton.
Yeah, me neither. And and people swear by him, like, and they should have, right? When you look at what he's done, like he's been always underdrafted, and maybe we're making the same mistake here again. But back in the past, he was scoring in the 16-17 season 20 points a game, almost 6 assists with over a steal.
And we can all look back on that now, I think, and say that was a kind of career year at age 30, and now he's fallen off. I also say this too, that I just think that there's so many good point guards before him that, like, if you don't have a point guard or two, I think you're maybe doing it wrong. And then, like, if you're getting him just as some depth piece, like, sure, I'm fine with that. But he's also, if he's your starting point guard, you are way behind in steals. Like, if he's only going to average 0.8 or 1, you're way behind in steals, because think about all those guys above him getting big-time steals, right? You got Ricky Rubio, you got Jeff Teague, you got –
those guys aren't even that far above him. Like, right, those guys are a couple rounds above him.
That's what I mean. But, like, and those are the bottom-tier guys as far as, like, you got guys like Curry and Westbrook and all those guys, right? But everybody's getting more steals than Goran Dragic. So you're way behind in that category, along with behind in assists and scoring. And so he's just a hard guy to make your top point guard.
Let me throw a question out there. Would you rather have Dragic in the 8th round or De'Aaron Fox in the 10th?
Fox in the 10th, just because I think he's got upside, and if anything, I'm going to bet Dragic probably has downside.
What about Dennis Smith Jr. in the 9th?
Give me Dennis Smith Jr. I think he's going to shoot the ball better this year. In Roto, though, you could make a case for Dragic because Smith Jr. shot the ball so bad, and the same way with Fox, right? Like, they both shot the ball so badly last year.
You should be leaning toward Dragic there in the later rounds. Would you rather have Jeremy Lin in the last round?
I'd rather have Jeremy Lin, because in this range where he's going, like 70 to 80, a lot of times I'm not picking a point guard. I'm picking a different position that I need to fill out my roster that's not a point guard.
So I've been, over the last handful of episodes, just been beating the Jeremy Lin drum. Every time I think about it, I'm more interested in Jeremy Lin being on my team, which is going to be a problem for me in the drafts that I have coming up, because the people are listening to this podcast now know that I'm going to take Jeremy Lin.
I'm going to be betting up Jeremy Lin like crazy. I'm going to be throwing Jeremy Lin out there at like $5 and see if Michael.
I'm not terribly happy about that situation, but here's what Jeremy Lin did in 24 minutes for Brooklyn: 14 points, 5 assists, over a steal.
Wait, wasn't that in one game?
No, it was in 36 games. Sorry, the season that he actually played.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, are you reading last year's stat line?
No. That's like, he had like 4 assists and 18 points in half a game.
All right, my bad. I thought you were reading the one game. Sorry, I had to laugh for myself.
That is a fair question. So, but like, he does 70% of what Goran Dragic does, I guess.
And here's the pushback. Like, okay, so I sometimes get some pushback because I've been recommending Lin as kind of like a last round target to some people, and they're like,
"Stop stealing my last round target, man."
Well, okay, so if you ask me who to pick in the last round, like if you write me on Twitter, I'm gonna give you like 10 names, because it's much depend on what your team needs and who you believe in, right? Like, a last round pick should be a flyer on a guy you think is good. So don't just blindly take my word on one player. Like, I'm going to give you like 10 names and I'm like, I'd look at these 10 guys. You pick one, decide who you want. And I get the pushback, oh, well, Lin never plays that many minutes. Like, look at Lin's stats in the 25 minutes he plays. They're still good enough to be owned. Like, that's what people are missing, is like, he's a good permanent player, and there's a potential on this Hawks team that he actually gets more than 25 minutes. I wouldn't bet my whole bankroll on it, but
I think like Kyle said in the previous episode, there's in a previous episode, there's a chance Bazemore gets traded. There's a chance that Trae Young is a bust. There's a chance that somebody gets hurt. Jeremy Lin. There's a chance that Jeremy Lin gets hurt. So to me, it's kind of like an all upside. And if he's terrible, you drop him. He's your last pick. Who cares?
Yeah, you should never be married to your last pick.
Never, not at all. Let's talk about a couple other guys on this team. Kelly Olynyk. Tell me why I should draft him, or why I shouldn't.
Why should you draft him? Well, you should draft him because he's a really good permanent producer, like we've talked about with some other guys. Why I don't usually draft him is we've seen him play 20 minutes, and 23 minutes. So even if we see a marginal decrease on that, right? Like, there's a lot of downside in that pick. And he's fine for where he goes. He shoots good percentages. He gives you a few rebounds, a few assists. I just don't really love Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah, he's a streamer in my world. You know what I mean? Like, if he's kind of sitting at the end of your bench and you're rotating him in, like, you could do better.
Right.
And
I'd rather have James Johnson than him, if we're being honest.
Yeah, James Johnson is a little bit interesting. So injured last season. Sounds like he's healthy coming into this season. And James Johnson did put together a very good fantasy season here, just not that long ago.
Well, even last year, right? Like, okay, so he didn't score as much, but he gave you a steal. He gave you 0.7 blocks. He gave you 5 rebounds. He gave you 3.8 assists. He shot over 50% from the field. Like, he just does a little bit of this and a little bit of that. He can probably be had in ESPN. He's ranked 123. On Yahoo, he's ranked 106. In Mark's projections, he comes out as the 87th ranked player. There's some potential for a little bit of value on that pick.
Yeah, he's a lot more interesting in roto leagues, I think, because he does kind of give you that 1 block, 1 steal, 1 3-pointer potential there. His free throw isn't as good as you want it to be, but he doesn't shoot at volume at all.
Yeah, 2.2 attempts a game last year. Like that's nothing.
Let's talk about. I mean, I would take him as a late round flyer for sure.
I'm with you on that one.
Let's talk about Tyler Johnson, or do we need to talk about Tyler Johnson?
Why are people picking Tyler Johnson in the 128?
This is why. This is why people are picking Tyler Johnson, because 2 years ago he played 29 minutes and he was ranked 84th per game. That's why people are taking Tyler Johnson. What did he do last year? He played 28 minutes and fell back a little bit. I guess he hit more threes, but all of his stats fell back a little bit. And that's the margin we keep talking about. There's that top bucket and probably the secondary bucket. I just think there's just 2 tiers there. And Tyler Johnson falling back a little bit per game, goes from 84th to 123rd.
Yeah, and we're only talking about he lost a minute. He lost 0.6 rebounds. He lost 0.9 assists. He lost 0.4 steals. And he lost 0.1 blocks. And he lost 2 points per game.
Yeah, I mean, he did shoot.
He shot a little bit better on both, and he shot.
I mean, he even shot a little bit better. You know what I mean? He even shot a little bit better. That's the difference between the 83rd or 84th player and the 123rd player.
And
nothing.
I mean, 0.4 steals is a significant amount. 0.9 rebound or 0.9 assists is a significant amount.
Yeah, so don't let these rankings fool you. Look at them as tiers. If Tyler Johnson fits a build, fits what you need, and it's one of those later rounds, fine. Pick him up. But the upside is not there with him, and I just don't know why people are picking him.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, in a deeper league, sure, I might pick him at where he's going. But in a standard league where he's one of my last 2 picks, right, he's a bench player on my team, like, why do I want him as a bench player? There's no upside for him to do anything. Like, say, I don't know, Dwayne Wade gets hurt and Josh Richardson gets hurt. Like, what is Tyler Johnson really going to do? Play 30 minutes a game and give you the same exact stat line? Like, there's just no upside for him. Even if there are injuries on this team, like, I don't think he gets, like, a huge role.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. Let's do a couple quick ones. Wayne Ellington, standard league relevant?
3-point streamer, probably, right? Averaged 3 a game almost last season.
Yeah, that's probably about it. Dion Waiters, not standard league relevant in my opinion.
No, man.
He's going to be hurt going into the season. Why are people wasting a pick on him?
But if for whatever reason there's a couple injuries and you think Dion's going to get some minutes, like, he could probably give you 14 or 15 points. So maybe he's streamable if there's a couple injuries. I'm never a big Dion Waiters fan.
No, I'm not. Don't pick him up at all. He's not. Do not draft him in a standard league. Same with this guy. Don't draft Justice Winslow in a standard league. I know there's kind of a little bit of hype around his steals or whatever, but like the guy has not put anything together.
Here's the damningest thing I can say about him. So he only played 18 games in 16-17. He was getting 35 minutes a game as a 20-year-old. As a 21-year-old, he went down. He lost 10 minutes a game. He played 24.
Well, no, he was injured. I don't feel like that's damning. I just feel like that was him battling an injury.
Yeah, but I mean, anyone at that age to see that significant drop, I mean, like, he played 68 games last year. He couldn't have been injured that much.
Well, it doesn't give me confidence.
You know what I mean? And man, I don't know. I had some high hopes for Justice Winslow when he came out of the draft, but I just don't ever think it's coming. He's going to be a poor field goal shooter. He's a poor free throw shooter. He doesn't. What any category do you want out of Justice Winslow? Maybe his 5 rebounds at where you can pick him.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, nothing. Unfortunately for him.
Yeah, I don't at all. Bam Adebayo is actually an interesting prospect, but like the chances of him playing significant minutes enough this season, I think, are incredibly low, and I'm not willing to waste a draft pick on him. I'm not wasting a roster spot on him.
Here's the thing I wanted to say about Bam.
Yeah.
Okay. So Hassan Whiteside goes away, whether that's injury or trade or any reason that he would not be part of the team anymore. That happened 5 seconds ago. Are you heading to your waiver wire to pick up Bam, or are you still not that interested?
I'm not that interested. I'm picking up Kelly Olynyk instead.
Fair.
I just am because I think he's 20 years old. He's still incredibly raw. I do like what I think he could morph into if he was playing starters minutes, but even just looking at that, he's not hitting threes as a big man. He'll just be a good rebounder who can block and get a block and a steal. Like, that's a cool player, like in a standard league, but it's not a top 50 player in a standard league.
I'm with you.
Kelly Olynyk, on the other hand, at 34 minutes a game.
That's not happening, Mike. Now I'm
just saying. You just said Hassan Whiteside is out. So if Kelly Olynyk is playing 30+ minutes a game,
here's a research project.
Better. He's a lot better.
I'd like to give you a research project. Are you ready?
No, I'm not.
Tell me the most minutes Kelly Olynyk's ever got in a game.
I have no idea. I don't keep track of that.
I don't think he's ever played more than 30.
Okay. That's a good point.
But why would he now, right? Like Kelly Olynyk, we're not talking about like some super young guy.
No, not at all. That's it for the Miami Heat. They are not an exciting team when it comes to fantasy basketball. Some of the deeper leagues, obviously, you got to adjust down. A lot of these guys who were saying were borderline or waiver wire players. Those are guys you definitely want to be drafting in that 130 to 160 range. Like, you definitely want to get those kind of players because they're going to play 22 to 28 minutes. So do target those types of players in your deeper leagues.
I was wrong, Mike. He did have a decent stretch last year where he had 4 games in a row where he got over 30 minutes.
There you go. You're hating on Kelly Olynyk, and I don't.
He also played 37 minutes in an overtime game against Boston.
That also counts. So he does more interesting things fantasy-wise than Bam Adebayo, for sure.
Here's the only thing I'll say about Kelly Olynyk, and you can look through his game logs too and find the same stuff. There's a lot of times where it's like 23 minutes, 29, then he goes down to 8 minutes. And he goes to 20, 15, up to 25, back down to 15. Like, he's always going to be a headache to own. And that's the one thing I don't like owning about Kelly Olynyk is it's like, if I knew it was consistent, I'd be a lot more in.
Those are really, really frustrating guys to own. I feel like I own one every single year.
Because there are a lot of times the players with upside that we want to draft late in our draft, right? It's like, oh man, if this guy would just get the 30 minutes, right? And then someone always pulls the rug.
Yeah. That's it for Miami. You can find us on Twitter. Tyler is at Tyler P. Watts, and I am at Watch the Boxes. Please rate and review the podcast. Leave us feedback. Send us tweets on Twitter with feedback, stuff you want to hear coming up, and check out patreon.com/watching the boxes. Subscribe now. You'll get free. No, you won't get anything free because you're subscribing, but you'll get exclusive content, and we'll check you out next time. Thanks. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Watching the Boxes Fantasy Basketball Podcast, hosted by #basketball.com and draft.com. If you use the promo code BOXES, you'll get a free entry to your first draft. I'm your host, Mike Catron. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Tyler Watts. What's up, Tyler?
Why you no talk?
I just introduced you.
Ow. Sorry, my thing must have cut out then. I was like waiting for you to go, and I never heard anything.
Oh, really? That's very strange. So I literally just said, what's up, Tyler? There's dead silence. And they're like, why not you talking? I'm like, okay.
I thought you didn't say anything at all because I was waiting. Like, what the world?
Huh. Weird. All right, so Tyler Watts.
Oh, Michael, what a great day to talk about this great team.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like I am in Arizona. Every day I go outside, I'm dying. It's hotter than all hell. It feels like the sun is living in my backyard and slowly killing me.
So the Suns are going to live in your backyard? Man,
I
we
wish.
have a big backyard because some of those guys are like 7 feet tall, and that'd be just clogging up a lot of space in your backyard.
I mean, I wish they were here instead of the actual sun because it's too hot. It's the middle of September. It's too damn hot outside. But people in Phoenix, they're used to that crap. That's why I don't want to live in Phoenix. It's a desert. Why are people living in a desert, Tyler? There's no water.
Do they make a tent big enough for a 7-foot person to fit in?
They probably do. Probably somewhere.
Because a 7-foot person wouldn't fit in my tent, so I guess you got a custom order that sucker.
Yeah, that's probably one of the downsides of being a basketball player is that they need custom-made tents. Probably top
all right,
3.
So here's my most interesting thing about the Suns. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
Do they roll with Devin Booker as the point guard, or are they going to buy themselves a new point guard? Are they going to trade for a new point guard?
I mean, you're right. That is a very good thread that's going into this Phoenix Suns season. They basically don't really have a real point guard. Devin Booker did take on more playmaking responsibilities last season. And if he's kind of given the keys to the kingdom here, those assists could go over 5, and he becomes like suddenly even more valuable because he's basically a point guard in hiding.
Okay, so Mark projected him as the 19th overall player in his rankings, shooting 43% with 88 from the free throw line, 2.9 threes, 4.5 assists, or 4.5 rebounds, 4.7 assists, 0.9 steals, 0.3 blocks, and 24.9 points. I think that is all very doable.
Yeah, he's young enough. He improves every single year. He sounds pretty hungry to start. The only issue I have now is he broke his shooting hand. And that kind of injury often isn't one that has a smooth return to action. There's often a period of time when the player returns back to the court. Their shot's a little off. Because they haven't been getting a shot up in quite a while.
Just talk about muscle atrophy and stuff like that, right? Like that's a real thing.
Just absolutely. And then there's an adjustment period, and then there's a period where every little bump, every little hit. I mean, basketball's a physical sport. You kind of start worrying about if they're coming back a little early, or even if they don't come back a little early, you just broke your hand. You're going to have a long healing period for that. And often it takes a while for Devin Booker, or it's not Devin Booker, but it could take a while for Devin Booker to get back into the swing of things. And what are we talking about? Is that 10 games? Is that 20 games where Devin Booker is not the player you drafted at Yahoo's average draft rank of 25?
Well, and we can talk about this too, right? He's probably going to miss the first 5.
Guaranteed to miss the first 5, I would say.
Right? So there's 5, and then, he's got to have some time to get his things back together. I'll say this. At his draft position, you don't love it. I definitely don't love it at all, but how far are you really going to let him slip? Right? You going to let him slip to 30? You going to let him slip to 35? I also think in that range, I find, at least myself, that I like him better than some of the players ranked slightly below him. You give me him or Kyrie Irving, well, I know Devin Booker's going to miss the first 5 games, but Kyrie Irving might miss 50. So, you know what I mean? There's that coin flip, but give me Devin Booker. I'm not super, super worried about it, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm a little bit more worried about it than you. I feel like this does actually make me slip him down a few rankings in my my overall. I don't know if I would drop him a whole tier, I guess, because I'm trying to encourage everybody, instead of rankings, use tiers. But this makes me drop him to the bottom of that third tier when I feel like I had him at the top of that third tier. Donovan Mitchell is now infinitely more interesting than Devin Booker, just because of that injury. Because I felt like they were very similar players, but Donovan Mitchell's going to come into the season healthy, ready to play, and I feel like, well, why would I not take him over Devin Booker?
Well, for now, anyways, right? And this is something I try to caution people on a lot is, sure, that's a good thought now, but I mean, training camp's going to start next week. What if Donovan Mitchell injures his hamstring? You know what I mean? Like, to me, okay, and this is maybe my fantasy theory, I want the best players. Because I don't know who's going to get hurt, right? We could talk about, Damian Lillard played every game for how many straight seasons until he didn't.
Yeah.
So, we can say guys like Kyrie Irving, right? Like, they get hurt every year. So there's a good chance he gets hurt again. But at the same time, like, there's no guarantee, right? He could play 80 games and make me look real bad. He could be the 10th best player in fantasy. Could happen. I'm not saying that it will, but it could. So to me, give me the guy who's the best combination, the cocktail of, I think this is a better player. And this is not a good example in your Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell thing, right? Because you just said you think they're very similar players. But give me the best combination of player plus what we've seen as far as injury, which, I mean, Devin Booker only played 54 games last year, but the 2 years before that were 76 and 78. So,
and a little bit of that was tanking.
Yeah. So, I've been trying to caution people a little bit on saying like, oh, this player's hurt now, he's going to be out for the whole season. Like, well, that's maybe
not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when I'm looking at two players,
oh, no, I'm not
I'm
saying
ranking.
What you're saying. I'm just saying, I'm trying to end the stigma of saying like, oh, this player has this injury, this small injury. I'm moving him way down my board. I'm moving him down 20, 30 spots, which is not what you're saying at all. And I understand
no, definitely. You know what I mean?
Like,
I think maybe some people might be doing that. And I think that's a bad idea.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is like, okay, well, but the 20 guys you moved ahead of them, 10 or 15 of those are probably going to get hurt and miss 5 games, which is all Devin Booker's really scheduled to miss right now. And it's a broken hand too. So it's not like something where the hamstring, you can have a setback, right? Like a broken hand, the bone heals, you play basketball again. Sure, you might not be as good right away, but you're going to play.
Yeah, halfway through the season, I think Devin Booker's probably going to look a lot like Devin Booker, but it might take him until halfway through the season to get there. And if you're looking at your second-round pick and you have kind of a group of players that you feel are all very similar type of players, and Devin Booker doesn't really push you in a particular way based on your first-round pick, like I might just say, well, I'd rather have the guy who's healthy than Devin Booker.
So
I'll go Donnie Mitchell instead of Devin Booker. But I'm not gonna, if the third round comes around and Devin Booker's right there in the third round, you got to snag him.
That's what I'm saying. Is I think this injury's made Devin Booker on my team more.
I hope so.
Less. Because I feel like a lot of people are going to be like, oh man, no way I'm picking Devin Booker in the second or third round. He's hurt already. And I'm going to be like, well, in the third round, he's going to be mine, so you won't have to worry about it.
Well, that would be great. I really hope that is what happens.
Well, I mean, Yahoo average hour position already down to 25.1, and it was just a few weeks ago, like 22. So we've already seen some slippage.
That's true. Tyler, I got a really good question for you. Who's the second best fantasy player on this team?
Can you tell me who's going to get 1 minute?
No, I cannot.
So in Mark's rankings, it's DeAndre Ayton. I would say that's probably the safest bet because they just picked him number 1 overall. So you got to feel like he's going to get minutes. And that wing forward rotation is completely and utterly bonkers for this team.
Yeah.
Right? Like I can't wrap my head around it. I don't know who's going to play. I have no idea.
It's a huge cluster because they brought in Trevor Ariza. Ryan Anderson's hanging out in there. I know he's more of a 4.
He's starting, right?
That's the word on the street, which is absurd.
Which with anybody else said that, even if it was their main beat reporter said that, I'd be like,
get out.
Oh man, he just got some bad news. But when it's Woj, you're kind of like,
oh yeah,
like okay, well someone's telling Woj, and it's probably more than someone. and I don't know. I just think Woj's weight carries a lot more weight than some other people's.
Oh yeah, if it's Woj or if it's Shams, I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I mean, just starting doesn't mean starters minutes, and Ryan Anderson's not good enough to play starters minutes. I think we all know that.
Especially on this team with Josh Jackson, you got Mikal Bridges, you got T.J. Warren, you got Ryan Anderson, you got Trevor Ariza, right? Like, I don't know, man. That's a lot of guys, and a lot of guys to me that should be playing 25 to 30 minutes, and there's just not that many 25 to 30 minutes to go around.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to see some of these guys play the 4. You're going to see maybe Josh Jackson, T.J. Warren at the 4, allowing Trevor Ariza even maybe to play the 4, so you can get all these guys minutes. But, I mean, man, that's like you said, that's a lot of guys who need minutes, and it would help if they would just move Booker to point guard and they just say, hey, Isaiah Cannon, not interested in you playing any more basketball for us other than maybe 10 minutes a game. That would help a lot, and I think like eventually that's what they're going to have to do. But even if they do that, that's a lot of mouths to feed, and I'm not sure if any of these guys are going to be playing 30 minutes a game.
I'm with you there, right? So if you look at Mark's projections, it's Ariza and Josh Jackson at 27 minutes, Mikal Bridges at 25, T.J. Warren at 25, and Ryan Anderson at 23. And that gives – and he's dishing out to the point guards some very limited minutes. He's got Elliot Koba at 15 and Anthony Melton at 12.
Yeah, I mean, even Ayton at 30 – feels a little high. Like you hope it's not. You hope that's right. But Tyson Chandler played 25. Alex Lynn played 20. I would hope that it's 30, for Ayton and 22 for Tyson Chandler.
Well, and it might be a situation that we talk about a lot where it's, 26, 25, 27 for Ayton at the beginning, and then it's 31, 32.
Sure.
In the back half, right? So it averages out for 30 for the season, but it might not start out quite that high.
You definitely hope. Let's talk about DeAndre Ayton up close here.
Is he overrated, right? ESPN's ranking him 65th. Yahoo's got him 69.8 ADP. That's a hefty price to pay for a rookie.
I'm really, really surprised about how high Ayton is going. I feel like I've seen some drafts where he's considered basically the second best rookie being drafted, and I couldn't disagree more with that. I just don't understand why anyone's taking him at anything like above the 8th round.
Here's what I'll say in his favor.
Okay.
Other than Luka Doncic and potentially Trae Young, he probably has the clearest opportunity for minutes, right? Like I think we've seen Dragan Bender isn't good.
That is true.
And Tyson Chandler, I'm a big Tyson Chandler fan. I have been for a long time, but he's 35 now, 36.
You seem like a Tyson Chandler fan.
You know what I mean? Like that's just should be playing like 20 minutes a game now, probably.
Yeah, let me help you out even further. There's not a lot of centers at this period of the draft.
And I was talking to someone just yesterday on Twitter, and we were talking about there's not a ton of big man, period. Like even that power forward position gets weak quick.
Yeah.
And it goes a lot to the websites don't want to give guys like who play some power forward, like who play a stretch forward position that are primarily a small forward. They don't want to give them the eligibility for whatever reason, and I don't know why that is. And I don't make the rules. I just play by them. So like they don't want to move these guys down positions for whatever reason. Probably won't own any DeAndre Ayton.
No, I definitely won't either. I mean, I think that people are talking a very big game around Ayton, that he could develop a 3-point shot. I think I might have said this before in a previous podcast. There's a couple other guys who are rookies who don't have a pathway, a direct pathway to playing time, but probably will play a decent amount as rookies who are already shooting threes, who are also big men. So like Ayton being able to develop a 3 doesn't matter if he's not going to develop a 3 this year.
Aiden did shoot 1 a game last year.
Cool. Like there's a 3-point shot in there somewhere.
He shot 1 a game last year in college, which
from the college line,
is nothing. But
so he's more of a rebounds, points, blocks guy, and I've seen some pretty ridiculous stat lines.
Yeah, and here's the other thing too. Like, look at his college 3 minutes. Like, well, last year, like they're not that good, right? I mean, rebounds, 1.6 assists, 0.6 blocks, 20 points.
Yeah, that's not incredible.
You know what I mean? Like that's not like a top. That's a college. Like he's not going to be that good. I think people.
You've dropped out, Tyler.
Can you hear me now?
You're still your mic is still like your connection sounds bad.
Hello.
Much better. Perfect. Can you talk more to make sure?
Okay. What would you like me to say, Michael?
That's perfect. Cool. All right. Let's see. I'll just pick off and we'll just start talking about the rest of this team.
Okay.
All right. Cool. So yeah, there's probably a few more guys we do need to talk about on this team. One of the guys I've seen really just kind of fall off the face of the planet, who was not outside of the top 100 by any means last season, and that's Trevor Ariza. Trevor Ariza has gone from being kind of one of those underrated but like very particular steals, 3 points, bad field goal percentage, but helps you out, like kind of like people in fantasy were very into Trevor Ariza, and now he's barely getting drafted in some cases. I mean, do you think he's gone too far off the side of the cliff?
Well, I think we talked about it once before, right? It depends on how many minutes, right? Like we've seen the last 3 years, 35, 34.7, 33.9. So he's been getting that good value in massive minutes, right? Like, and so if you're telling me all he's going to play is 27 this year, like that's going to be a significant hit to his value. And especially he's one of these players who's on across the board accumulator, right? Like we've seen the steals drop each of the last 3 years kind of significantly, right? He went from 2 to 1.8 to 1.5. That's already not a good sign. And now you're telling me the minutes are going to drop too. Man, it's hard to tell. I think obviously he's got some upside, like where he's going. He's ranked 174th on ESPN, right? So like, especially in a deeper league, like I am all in on that.
Yeah, that's far too low. Like I see his average draft rank is like 120th. I mean, would you, if you're sitting around, it's the last round, maybe even the second last round, Trevor Reese is out there on the board. I mean, the upside's there. I think he's worth a flyer.
But it's also kind of if I need threes and steals, right? Because like he's not
definitely.
He's not going to help you a ton of points. He's going to give you like 4.5 rebounds if he's playing huge minutes. So if he's not playing huge minutes, he's going to give you what, like 3.5 or 4 rebounds, like assist and a half. Like
he fits a particular build, and I think if you're punting field goal, you should almost definitely take him with either your next to last or last pick.
Right, but if you're punting steals, then definitely don't take him as your last pick because that's probably his best category.
Yeah, definitely. But I do think he's worth taking a look at, considering drafting with one of your last picks, even if he's playing less minutes.
Yeah, right. As long as we don't see him playing 20 minutes. If he's playing 20 minutes, then steer clear. If he's playing like 28 to 30, I'm fine with it.
Look at the rest of the guys on this roster, right? There's only one guy on this roster who has any true playoff experience, who is reliable, who is a veteran, and it's Trevor Ariza. I mean, Tyson Chandler is not. I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about the wings. And Trevor Ariza is definitely probably like going to play solid minutes on this team.
Well, and
when they are trying to win games at the beginning of the season.
Would you say this too? Because I would. At least from what we saw last season, he is the best current wing player on this team, right? Like we can talk about in 5 years' time, he's definitely not going to be, but
yeah.
But last year, like if we're just going off what we saw last year, Trevor Ariza was better than Josh Jackson and a college playing Mikal Bridges and TJ Warren.
Oh yeah, by a lot.
Right. So I don't see any reason why he doesn't get minutes, but I don't think in saying that he's going to get 35 minutes a game because there is other mouths that they're going to want to feed.
Let's talk about those other players. Josh Jackson did play 25 minutes, got more minutes down the stretch last season.
And another player in that draft class who can't shoot free throws. I don't know what was up with that draft class, but no one in it could shoot free throws.
No one in the AAU leagues that year decided to teach anyone how to shoot free throws. It's it is actually really, really strange when you take a closer look at it. I've seen Josh Jackson get a lot of love out there, and I'm a little surprised.
What are you drafting Josh Jackson for other than the potential to score 14 points a game?
Like, I think he can score fairly well. You're probably
percentage though, right? Like,
yeah, you'd be drafting him for his potential, his steals, his scoring, and his rebounds.
But even like his steals aren't super a difference maker. Like he won a game last year. So if he plays 30 minutes, that's like 1.2.
Yeah,
which is good, but it's not like Trevor Ariza getting you 1.5 or 2 a game.
And if I'm in a standard league, I'm out. And if I'm in a roto league, I'm way out. So, because the percentages are just going to kill you.
Here's the thing I'll say about Josh Jackson, too. Like, I don't see him taking a huge leap because, okay, sure, he might get up to like 5 rebounds, but he's not a big assist guy. I don't see him as a big steals guy, and he'll get you like 0.6 or 0.7 blocks, even if he's playing 30 minutes. And he's going to give you maybe 1-3 a game in that time, too, on poor percentages. Both percentages are bad. So he's okay. He's fine, but like I don't see any huge upside in this guy.
Yeah, in fact, like why not just go with TJ Warren? You know he's going to play probably more minutes, or at least he has in the past. He's a better scorer. He gets rebounds. His steals aren't as good, but there they are, and his percentages are much better.
Yeah, and I guess the downfall of TJ Warren is he doesn't shoot any 3-pointers.
Yeah.
But And here's the other thing I'll say about TJ Warren. He is ranked 73rd on ESPN, which, given the glut of wings on this team, I think that's a little far too high.
That is far too high. TJ Warren feels like one of those last round picks to me, just simply because of his the potential that he's not going to be playing a lot, and the fact that he doesn't really do a whole lot other than score.
Well, and he's a big boost to your field goal percentage, right? He shot almost 50% on 16 attempts last season. Now, granted, he's probably not going to get that many minutes, but
yeah, I have a feeling those shot attempts are going to go down.
Right, but so he's points and good field goal percentage. Like I guess that helps, and a few rebounds and a steal and half a block. Like he's fine, but yeah, I mean he's only in the flyer range, and you got to kind of hope that the team gives you some help by playing him 30 minutes a game, which it's a possibility that he only gets like 25. The player I want to talk about is Mikal Bridges. Like Mark projected him for 25 minutes a game. At the beginning of the season, is he even sniffing 25 a game?
No.
Right? Like I think he's probably in the 10 to 12 minute a game range if he's in the rotation at all. Like I just think they're going to play Warren, they're going to play Jackson, and they're going to play Ariza over him.
But do you like, let's just say, if everybody got hurt, suddenly Mikal Bridges has got to play 32 minutes a game. Do you like his fantasy outlook?
Sure, as a potential 3 steals and blocks guy.
That's a good start to being a quality fantasy player. I mean, that sounds like a standard league relevant player.
In 30 minutes, though, he probably scores like 11 or 12 points. So, you know what I mean? Like he's more of a small stats guy, right? The stats that aren't near as big, but he's not going to give you a ton of assists or a ton of rebounds or a ton of points. Like he's just going to be pretty good in those 3 categories. And he should shoot a good free throw percentage. And he shot over 51% every year in college. I don't know if that translates to the NBA, but he could potentially be somewhat decent at field goal percentage too.
It's certainly a possibility. There's also that little bit of a, suddenly he was taking high volume shots and suddenly he was hitting 43% from behind the arc in college, and everybody's kind of like, in retrospect, starts looking back at that and going, well, what the hell happened there? So he could be a complete bust for all we know, or he could just be a fairly good 3-and-D type of 6-7 man. Who knows?
I'll say this too about college stats. You guys got to remember, like they won the national championship 2 out of the last 3 years, and they played 40 games. So even looking at anyone's college stats is basically looking at half of an NBA season, right? And we see like outliers in half of an NBA season all the time. So college stats can be real tricky to look at and take a whole ton away from.
That is very true. Is there anyone else? I don't want to talk about Dragon Bender. Like, pour one out. That guy's career is over. I don't want to talk about anybody, but maybe, I guess, either the point guard situation here.
So I'll say this. Ryan Anderson has a Yahoo ADP of 142. If you're taking Ryan Anderson with your last pick, you're doing it wrong.
Yep.
Like that's not a thing. So let's move on past that. So here's the thing. They're both rookies. The one guy played in France, and we literally have no idea what he's going to be. He did have a somewhat interesting stat line in France last year, right? He shot 47% from the field, made 2 3-pointers a game, had 2.8 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and a steal at 13 points.
I mean, that's semi-interesting.
And that was in 26 minutes, too. But it's in the French league. So, I mean, how good is that league? I don't know. Here's the thing I'll say about him. If you're in a super deep league and you want to take a flyer on one because you think one of them is going to play more, either D'Anthony Melton or Elliot Kobo, I'm okay with that.
Go for it.
I don't know. I don't really know right now, right? I've seen like highlights of Okobo. I saw D'Anthony Melton play 2 years ago for USC. He didn't play at all last year because he got suspended. We saw him a little bit in Summer League, right? We saw them both a little bit in Summer League. Those are the limited amount of film we have. I didn't see anything that I thought made me go, these two are definitely a starting point guard of the NBA this season. But if they're getting 30 minutes a game, like either one of them could potentially be valuable. I would bank on that.
I'm not sure we're going to know until either training camp or preseason. Maybe one of them is having quite a good training camp. Maybe
here's the other thing to say. that Booker's going to be out. So they're not going to play Booker at point guard those first 5 games. Somebody's got to play point guard those first 5 games if Booker's on the sideline.
That is very true.
You know what I mean? So if we see one of these guys in camp getting a lot more minutes than the other one and you want to take him as your last round pick for the first week and then dump him, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I just don't know that you're getting a game changer, right?
Like, you know what I'd rather do, though? I'd rather take Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, right, because Schroeder's going to do the same thing. So
it's the exact same situation as if Dennis Schroeder can actually play basketball. And we know Dennis Schroeder can play basketball.
So here's a question for you about Dennis Schroeder. Is Schroeder going to be cool with that role once Westbrook comes back?
Do you want to tell Westbrook that you're not –
Well, I don't think he's going to tell Westbrook. I think he's just going to tell – I mean, like, he complained when he was Jeff Teague's backup all the time, right?
Yeah.
So I think that locker room could turn into a kind of toxic situation there.
I don't know if he's going to be cool about it, but is that going to matter? I much more care is that if is he going to play like against second teams and just like tear them up? Like that's exactly how I would want to play Dennis Schroeder in that position.
We saw him do it before, right? I mean, we've seen him play pretty well against second teams, and he got people all kinds of excited about, oh, when he's the starting point guard, he's going to be amazing. And then
he was just the same player.
He was just a starting point guard, right? So, I mean, I would think that nothing's changed, right? He's still good. He's still fast. He's still Dennis Schroeder.
Yeah, I think Dennis Schroeder is getting a little too much hate going into next season. I think he's undervalued.
Well, he's undervalued in Yahoo, right? And ESPN, right? ESPN has him ranked kind of up there.
Yeah, well, ESPN has no idea what they're doing with their rankings.
We don't even have to debate that. That's just factually correct.
Yeah, we certainly don't. I think that is it for the Phoenix Suns. If you guys out there like what we're doing, rate, review the podcast, tell your friends, tell the people in your league. Really helps us out. Also, if you really want to do your part, check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes. You can subscribe to be a Patreon and get exclusive content going into next season. We got exclusive podcasts, exclusive rankings. We're going to also be entering people into our listener leagues. So if you want to be involved with the listener league, check out patreon.com/watchingtheboxes.
I'll say this as a parting thought, regardless of when you're listening to this, basketball's back. Training camps have officially kicked off by the time you're listening to this.
So, yeah, I mean, you're going to want to get prepped for your draft. We're going to prep you for that draft. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of content before the season starts. So that's it for the Suns, and we'll see you next time.